Hey, first of all, I want to welcome Reverend Bill McDonald to the Reincarnation Symposium Book Club. Um, Welcome, Reverend Bill. This book club was started by Carol Louis, who's right here, and she started the Reincarnation Symposium a few years ago when I think, Carol, when you found that the spaces where research and experiences connected to reincarnation, near-death experiences, etc., were very far and few in between. So one of the things that Carol started was this book club inviting people to come, authors to come and share about reincarnation and about their life and how reincarnation impacted their life. And at the same time, for the past 2 years, Carol has just been an incredible mentor and friend, um, and someone I'm truly grateful for because um, you know she just really has so much passion for this work, for being the light in the world. And Tiffany, who's here, and Tiffany and I, who have been helping her with different things connected to the symposium, I think we both feel so blessed to have Carol in our life. And because of Carol, we have everybody who's here, so many of you in our life. So, Carol, would you like to chime in and share a little bit about how you got started and just share a little bit about because you have written a lot of books too.
I don't want to take up the space, but thank you for that beautiful comment, Smita. I am just, and I'm sure Reverend Bill feels the same way. I know Smita and Tiffany do that. uh, It just feels like such a blessing to be doing what we're meant to be doing here on Earth, and anything that we can do to help humanity. It's just, to me, in the Buddhist tradition, it's called Dharma, our life purpose. And so I just feel honored, and I feel like it would I wouldn't be doing what I'm supposed to be doing if I didn't do these things that I am doing. So, but it's wonderful to have help with Smita and Tiffany, and then Jim doing the Karma Cafe. And we're just spreading the word, and it is really having an impact. So thank you. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Carol. And it's great to see everybody who's joined us. And so many of you, they feel like family now. We've known each other for a while. Now, in this book club, we decided to take a little bit of a detour from our usual material. So I think we are at that point, and this is something I was really feeling. We are at that point in history, um, where we are all wondering where we are going, and we are a little worried about tomorrow, and we are looking for ways to feel more positive and uplifted about life in general. And I feel this book, um, I Remember Tomorrow, could not have come at a better time because as I was reading through the chapters, I was just starting to feel like, this is life. There's some things that are going to be tough, and there's some things that are going to be uplifting, and there's some things that are going to be sad. So I just feel so appreciative of Reverend Bill, this book that you've written, um, and the fact that you've made the time today to be with us. I'm just really,
Yeah, you know what? I'm laughing. I made the time at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was up already.
oh, so yeah, we have a little funny story where I had sent Reverend Bill the, you know, Zoom link, and he totally thought it was for 4 a.m. this morning instead of 4 p.m. And he called me in the morning and he said, I'm waiting on the Zoom call. Where is everybody? And I was fast asleep. So, but that's how lucky we are. He was so excited to be with us.
You don't
Um,
get out. You don't get out much, Bill.
No, actually, what happens is because I counsel people in India and Singapore, Japan, and Australia, I start my day about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning for that side of the world. And I'll work until about 5:30. And then I'll take a nap till about 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock. That's like really sleeping in. And yeah, so I'm busy. Trust me, I'm busy. And I have groups that I do in India like this, except I'll have 200, 300, 500, the biggest numbers you can get on there. I have all these little tiny little things on the screen, and they're at weird hours. It's like they're 12 and a half hours different. So it's like, I'm used to doing these things it doesn't matter all the time. I'm looking at the screen. I feel like a member of the Brady Bunch. I'm looking up, I'm looking down. I don't know if I got the center square there or not, but it's anyway. I'm a very serious guy, as you can tell, and
mhm.
I kind of wander around in my madness, but there's usually a point where I'm taking people, even though it's not apparent. But there's always a point, and when I do workshops, I tell a lot of stories. I was going to cut stories out, but I found out that people like to learn from a story, instead of a lecture. And so it's interesting. It's well, like this name of this group is Reincarnation, right? So just for the heck of it, let's just kind of start there, because I was earlier talking about this father, Jack LaRocca in Santa Clara, that had a nervous breakdown helping me do an exorcism. But I met him under unusual circumstances, because he'd claimed he'd been looking for me for like 40 years of his life or something, back when he was in an orphanage in Long Island. And he kept seeing visions of me as I looked in my 45th year of life. And he's 6 months older than me. So when he was 4 or 5, I'm about the same age, right? So he spent his life looking and searching for me. Anyway, so he, unbeknownst to me, shows up on Thanksgiving Day in Santa Clara at my brother-in-law's house, and we're having Thanksgiving there. And my brother-in-law's terminal with cancer. He's going to live a couple more months after that. So this parish priest, Father Jack, is riding around on a Harley Davidson or some big bike, right? He pulls into the driveway with his priest collar, and he's going through the parish just to bless people for their dinner, and he's leaving, right? So then he gets to the driveway, and I'm outside in a pair of Levi's sitting there, talking to my brother-in-law, and gets off. This little guy's about 5'5", gets out, and like I'm so tall, right? But anyway, shorter than me. So he gets off the motorcycle, he walks up to me, he looks me right in the eye, and he goes, "I know who you are, and I have a message for you." I never met him. My brother-in-law looks at me like, because my brother-in-law already thinks I'm going to go to hell because I'm not Catholic, number one. And I watched The Simpsons and allowed my children to watch The Simpsons, which was on the no Catholic list to watch right back then. It was bad. So I'm already, and I meditate, and I had a guru and my God, and I read books on Hindu and Buddhism. I mean, I was going to go to hell. Anyway, so he shows up, ignores my brother-in-law, who goes to his church. And he says, "I've been looking for you for 45 years or 40 years." And he says, "I have a message for you." And then he looks at me and he points to my leg, and he says, and I've been moving, I'm not walking nothing. And he says, "That leg's about 1.5 inches shorter than the other one, isn't it?" Only my wife knows that, because I don't limp or nothing, just, yeah, okay. And then he goes, and then I said, he says, "Where were you last week or so?" I said, "Oh, I was down in Southern California. I was at a church convention and convocation." And out of the blue, this Catholic priest goes, "Oh, Self-Realization Fellowship, Yogananda's group?" I didn't say that, but he did. And I go, "Well, yeah." how do you know about you? Well, I've read autobiography. Of course, this guy's already strange Catholic priest, right? He's read autobiography. Anyway, so he says, I have a message for you. I got to give it to you in private. My brother-in-law's going, what is going on here, right? So we go into a private room and he gives me this message that he had been saving for me from years. Tells me who I was in a past lifetime and told me to go get this book and read it and look at the cover of the book and all this other stuff. And I don't want to bore you with that, but I could. But anyway, so that started a weird, strange relationship. So when he stayed for dinner, of course. So I took the guy at his word and I went to the Catholic bookstore and I bought a book on this guy he said I was. And I'm holding it and it's got a drawing of this guy from the 1500s. And my wife goes, how come that book's got your picture on it? You didn't write that. It looked exactly like I did at 45 years old. Talking about St. Ignatius of Loyola. It looked exactly the same with the beard and everything, and the hair, little hair on the sides, and a little thin on the top. It looked exactly like it. And I said, "Well, it's a coincidence." And then, so I go inside the book, and I start reading it. It's autobiography. And St. Ignatius of Loyola was this gallant warrior in the war. Was wounded in the left leg, and it made that leg, when it healed, it was 1.5 inches shorter, just like mine. Same leg, same thing. And he fought so gallantly against the Spanish, that he was fighting against, that even though they lost the battle, they didn't kill him because he was, just really, so they just stopped fighting him. And they fixed him and gave him medical care, and he ended up living and being healed and working for this guy he fought against for about 1 year or 2. And then he decided to become a priest. Meanwhile, he changed his diet. He became a vegetarian. I'm a vegetarian. And then he went to Paris. And then he did something that I did on my first trip to Paris. I had this thing. I had to go to Paris. I had to go to France. I had to go to Italy. I had to go to Spain. I had to go to all these places. And I looked at all these places that when I was 19 that I went and visited. It was the exact path that he took in this book.
Wow.
On his process of becoming this, a Jesuit, forming the Jesuits. Same places. But odd, in the Notre Dame, because I went to the Notre Dame, this beautiful church, which now is rebuilt. And I went inside like I knew where I was going, and I walked past everybody, and I went to the corner, and there was a door. I opened it up, and I went up these stairs, and I went up the stairs, and went up the stairs, and I found an open window, climbed out on the buttresses, and spent 4 hours on the top of the Notre Dame looking at the Seine, meditating early in the morning.
Wow.
Who does that? Well, when I read the book, St. Ignatius, it's exactly what he used to do. He climbed on top of the Notre Dame and he meditated. So just a little weird. So I'm thinking, well, it's kind of quirky. How can this guy tune in on all this stuff, right? So it just goes on one thing after another thing after another thing. And this guy was a mystic and he was psychic and all these things. And then when he's telling me all this stuff, he says, "What'd you dream about when you were a kid?" Which is a really weird question to ask somebody. And I had a weird answer. I said, well, actually, when I was a kid, I used to dream about making colleges and schools and homes for unwed mothers and churches and building institutions of education and take care of, that kind of stuff. And he goes, that's exactly what St. Ignatius did. And in the real world, that's exactly what he did. He created all these institutions, including the Jesuits. Also, when he created the Jesuits, he wasn't the president of the Jesuits or something. His title was Secretary General. They called it, and they called him the General. And so when I met years later, I met this yogi. First time he sees me, General. And I thought, well, he knows about my war record, because I'm, I was no general, I was a enlisted man. But so everybody called me General at the ashram, and I thought it was because of that. And then he told me, he says, well, it's not only St. Ignatius. But you were also a general in that big war in India, you know, when they had that millions of people fighting." He says, and I was apparently fighting with on his side. We were on the, apparently it was the wrong side to be on. Christians on the other side. Anyway, everybody's fighting this war, but so I was a general then too. So the nickname was General because that's what St. Ignatius was called. General because I was a general with this guru, according to him. And I thought originally, though, he was just saying that because of my military war record. You know, I got all these awards and, you know, decorations. So that was kind of weird. But then since then, I've had probably less than 500, but someplace between 300, 400, 500 people independently. I get messages, so many a month or a year, from people. They're in a museum, and like I had a group, 4 or 5 guys were in a museum in Berlin. "Hey, we're standing next to your portrait." They took a picture, and it was like, here's St. Ignatius, how he looked, and here's this guy
Wow.
pointing at it, and it looks just like me in the damn thing, right? And anyway, so it was like, "Hey, we were at your portrait," but they didn't know the story, and they were just making fun because I looked like this guy. And then a whole group of Germans started believing that. And then next thing you know, I got Germans believing that, and the British and a bunch of Americans. And then this priest is telling everybody, and it just got crazy because I shut it down. Because basic line is this: you are who you are in this lifetime. Focus on that. That's enough work. Don't take credit for somebody else's work, and do your own, become the best you can become. Because that's always been my belief. I'm sharing the story with you guys just because it's a weird, quirky story, but one that was more interesting and believable because it's not with a famous person. I've had this thing when I was young. I had to go to France. I had to go to Europe. It was like, and when I was born in 46, so it wasn't that it was the end of the big band era, but I had this whole stack of Glenn Miller records and, you know, and Dorsey, and I love the music. It's just, you know, swing music is really great, you know, In the Mood and all these things. Pennsylvania 65,000 probably means nothing to nobody here. But anyway, all these great swing music things, you know, from Dorsey Brothers and from Glenn Miller and all that. And I love 1930s and 40s, you know, movies. I mean, you know, come on, old guard, you know, it's the only way to go. So I kind of had that as a kid. It was kind of weird. I'm listening to Elvis and, you know, and Fats Domino, but I'm also listening to the only guy I knew at that age listening to big band music. Was weird. So when I got out of high school, after I moved to Hawaii, and that's another whole story, met a kahuna, that whole experience there in Hawaiian Islands, came back, hitchhiked to New York City, flew to Luxembourg, and spent a summer hitchhiking around Europe. And that's where I took that exact trail all the way to the Vatican City, as was described in his autobiography, his exact route I took. I had no clue who the guy was, what was going on, nothing. And I didn't know any of that. And of course, I went to University of San Francisco, and you know, of course, that's a Jesuit school, number one. Number two, it was called St. Ignatius College. It was first built for a few years before they changed it to University of San Francisco. Most people don't even know. I didn't even know that. Anyway, so there's all these weird little coincidences. But anyway, meanwhile, I'm feeling this draw to go to Europe. I get on an airplane, I got to get to Paris. And that's when I went to the, you know, on the roof and all that. But eventually at the end of that trip, I end up on the anniversary of D-Day on the actual beaches in Normandy, 21 years after the fact. And I'm standing there and I'm just feeling so sadness. And I walk up and I'm standing in this American graveyard, you know, with all the tombstones, you know, it's very sad. And I'm standing next to this one, and it's a private somebody, not nobody famous, just a private somebody. And then I had this vision. I'm watching through this guy's eyes. I'm like in his body. Now, I don't know if it was a vision of his life, me reliving his experience, me being that maybe, but the feelings was, it was real. And I was there in this landing craft, and I wanted to be a brave hero, and I wanted to win the war and get rid of the Nazis and all that good, free France, you know, and all that stuff, all these beautiful things. And yet I'm one of the first guys off. and I'm immediately shot, and I'm tumbling in the surf with the blood and everything and drowned. So the big hero doesn't even get onto the beach, dead in the waves. And I broke down and cried. It was like people looking at me, why is this guy crying? You know, because I'm seeing this whole thing happen in front of me. It's
Mhm.
just like real. So
Like a spontaneous
yeah,
recall.
and it got weirder because I had this feeling that I wanted to do this, right? Well, when I ran out of money in Europe hitchhiking, I had no money. I was out of money, right? And this French family, this husband and wife, they were professors at REV University. They were retired. They were old. They took me in, and they said, "You're our token American." I go, "What do you mean token American?" They said, and they pointed to some building by the beaches, some house that was still there. He says, "We were up there when the landings were taking place, and we were scared, but we were so happy. At the same time, we saw the Americans coming, and we knew we were going to get rid of the Nazis, but it went on and on, and it was like, and so they got a couple of bottles of wine, and they went out there and they wanted to hug these guys and give them, but the guys were just getting up the beach and going past them, and they felt really bad. They never got a chance to welcome a token American. So when I was there on D-Day, anniversary of D-Day, and I was only 19 years old, right? 19 years old. And they go, "No, we've waited 21 years to do this. You're a token American." And they showed me around, and they took me to all the places and gave me the history and everything, and gave me a bottle of wine. And I don't drink, but okay, I'll have a glass, but I'm not a drinker. But it's like they waited, and I was their guy, and then of course I ended up in Vietnam finishing up the French war there right after the French left. And so there was that connection. I needed to be there.
Yeah.
I needed to experience that. So there's, because you guys are talking about reincarnation and I'm going, okay, so what can you prove? Can't prove anything, but there's a lot of coincidences and a lot of things. Now, is it coincidences based on reality? Is it based on, fact, fiction, imagination? Who knows? Maybe I'm just having visions of people had these things before. But after about the third 300 or 400 people said independently, "No, you're Saint Ignatius. I've had dreams about you, Saint Ignatius," that you begin to wonder, and you go, well, maybe there's something there. But is it worth pursuing? Is it worth doing anything about? No, because I always tell people, because I have it come to me. Oh, I was John the Baptist, and I was Paul walking with Jesus, and I was Mary. Nobody's ever somebody that's not famous. Like I was a bar maiden, and I was a pickpocket, and I was a farm. No, everybody's somebody, right? And this guy had come to me, and he had about 20 famous people he was, right? Oh yeah, I remember all. I said, really? I said, you know what? I believe you. And he looked at me like, really? I said, yeah, because since we're all one, everybody was Jesus, everybody was John the Baptist, everybody was Mary. There is nobody else but one. Therefore, we all are these people. Oh no, I was special. I said, okay, fine. So everything that happens, and if you identify with your ego, you're missing the whole point. Because the reality is there's only one consciousness. There's one dream, one dreamer. We're just breaking it into like a broken mirror. Like, you see all these images, like holograms. We each think we're unique. We believe our story. We believe our personal history. Jim believes he's Jim, therefore he has a history, right? So, and if you believe your history, and if we all have bodies here, I can see, unless there's somebody I can't see doesn't have a body. If you have a body, you have an ego, and you have an identification, and that's why you have a body. Meaning, even when you die, you have a body, even if it's an angelic body or a casual body, an astral body, a rainbow body, a body of light, a body of love. It doesn't make a difference. You still have a separation between you and your ultimate awareness of your oneness. And as long as you identify with being that, then you'll always have a body. That's why these people go, well, I'm going to get rid of my ego. I'm going to get rid. Yeah, good luck. I mean, yeah, really good luck, because that's the ultimate thing, to wake up, and But the truth of the matter is, because we get back the other day, somebody asked me yesterday on some interview I did, of course you believe in free will. I go, no, I'm having my doubts. What kind of free will do you have if the ultimate destiny of every one of us is to become aware of our oneness again? And every one of us, no matter how much we screw up, no one's going to hell. Everybody's going to be one again. And it's a big party. It's like you're destined all to be Buddhists. It's screw up all you want. And well, this guy's going to get to heaven before you do. Well, first off, there's no time. So all of it's now. So there's nobody beating anybody anywhere. We're all getting there together. And so to tell people, well, and then you're going to go to hell, it's like, well, I'll tell you what, if you look out there today at the cable news, they're broadcasting hell. That's hell, what we're going through as a nation right now. That's about as close as you get. But if you believe in who you are, then you accept birth, suffering, pain, good, the bad, joy, all emotions. You accept it all, disease and death. And if you believe in death, then you believe in an after place, whatever that may be to you. Whatever you believe, probably going to get, and whatever levels you go into based on your vibrations and light and all that. And then you get recycled back, and because you believe in reincarnation. If you believe in your idea, you accept all that as your reality. In truth, if there's only one of us, because people always say, some of the more liberal people, well, I get introduced, well, what pronoun do you want to go by? I go, what pronoun I want to go by? Okay. I go, how about us? There's only us. Us? Yeah, there's us. Okay, it's us. So the guy didn't know what I was talking about. Anyway, so we are but one. There is nothing else. So when I tell people it's important to love your enemy, you're really telling people it's important to love all of you. And I start people off, in case you ever see me wear this hat here, it says, love, forgiveness, and gratitude, awareness of my events I do, because basically that's all I'm teaching. I teach no dogma, no scripture, no hellfire, damnation, not telling you how to live your life. I'm telling you how to love, how to forgive, and how to be grateful for all that you have. Add sprinkle a little service in there, which is love, and it all works out. So I speak in Salt Lake City, I spoke to a big group of Mormons there. They all accept what I say because I talk about love, forgiveness, and gratitude. And of course, in Salt Lake City, I add, and service. And they all go, yeah, and service, because they're all about love and service there. I mean, trust me, it's a community of service. And if I go speak to, well, I'm going back to Texas. I'm going to Dallas in a couple of weeks, and I'll be speaking to a bunch of Catholics. Well, they have no problem with what I'm teaching, because I'm teaching just love, starting with loving yourself. If you can't love yourself, you can't love God. Oh, what do you mean by that, Reverend Bill? Because if God and you are one, when you love you, you're loving God. When you're loving God, you're loving you. Because people say, well, how can I learn to love me? I said, how do you love God? Well, then you love yourself. Don't live in the shadows and the darkness. Everywhere I go, whether it was in the Czech Republic or in England or in Germany or in India or in Bolivia or wherever I've been, Vietnam, wherever I go, the biggest problem is the same. People worldwide really don't fully love themselves. They're not enough. They're not good enough. They're flawed. They got all these things. They can't love themselves. And then forgiveness, second step. If you can't forgive yourself, how do you expect to forgive anybody else? So you got to start there. And I'm finding that I can do a week-long retreat just on going on these two subjects. I don't have to get any scripture because I got stories that cover all these things and how they work and everything. But when you love you, you love God. And when you love at that level, you realize, well, the scriptures say to throw the scriptures in, because I don't want to be totally without scriptures. Oh, Reverend didn't even have any scriptures. Okay, it says you got to love your neighbor as yourself. Wow. Okay. My neighbor is God in him too. I love him or her. And then, whoa. Now the scriptures say I got to love my enemy. Oh man, I don't know about that. You love the God in your enemy. You do not have to like your enemy, but you got to love them. And you can love people with not wanting to be around in your life. Trust me, there's people that you don't want in your life. They're drug addicts. They're crazy. They're violent. They're mean. They put you down. They demean you. They take your energy. There's those. So I tell people, it's okay not to like them or like what they're doing, but you got to love them. That's divine because they got God in them. So that's the stepping stones. The third one being gratitude, which people never have enough of. They're complaining because they got no shoes. You know the old story, guy complained about having no shoes, so he met a man with no feet, right? Everything that happens to you in life, you complain, be grateful for what you have. If you got one eye, hey, I'm great, I got one eye left, whatever it is. Like, for example, you're looking at me this whole time and realize that my nose has been totally amputated and cut off 3 times. It's rebuilt from my shoulder. I don't know if you can tell or not. And I had surgery on it just 15, 16 days ago. And it's all healed up now, for the latest little thing I went through. So I'm grateful for the cancer I got that destroyed my nose, because it taught me methods and techniques that I use as I go around the world to teach people how to relieve pain and suffering in their lives. And if I came to them without having tested this, then it's just theory. That's like why people go to a 12-step program instead of to me. Because I tell people, you got a drug problem, don't come to me. I never done it. I don't know who's lying, what's going on. I don't know the pitfalls. You go to a guy that's conquered it, ex-alcoholic, an ex-drug dealer, somebody that's been through bad divorces. They have a little 12-step group. That's the strength of a 12-step group, is you get somebody that's overcome it, and now they've learned the lesson and they teach it. And it's only when you reach the level in a 12-step program where you become the sponsor, the teacher, that you're really making great progress. So anyway, that's what I do. You didn't ask me, but that's kind of what I do. And so I go around the world, and like I said, I'm going to Texas to a Catholic thing, and for healing for a Catholic Monsieur, a real nice man, and to bring me back there and see what I can do. And ultimately, all healing is self-healing. I never claim to be a healer, never take credit for things that happen, and stuff happen at my workshops. I mean, it happens. People cancel operations, the pain stuff, major stuff happens at almost every event. I shouldn't say almost every event, something happens. And it's not me. It's me opening up the awareness of their godness in them, teaching them self-love and forgiveness and gratitude that brings about their own healing. I tell people, look in the mirror. You are your own teacher. You are your own guru. What? You're your own savior. Stop looking outside of you for some guru, teacher, somebody's going to save you, make your decisions for you, and tell you what you should believe. If you experience it, believe it. If you haven't experienced it, doubt. Question. You shouldn't belong to any organization that doesn't allow you to read other people's stuff and expose yourself to other thoughts, and certainly not allowing you to ask questions. Remember, religions are called as an alternate term. What's your faith? What's your religion? What's your faith? In other words, what do you have faith? What do you believe? Not what you know for faith. What do you believe? Well, it says, this is the doctrine. Well, who wrote the doctrine? Well, the founders of the church, inspired by God. Well, then how come there's so many different ones? They're all inspired by God. Well, you got to go to the scriptures. Which ones? They're all different. Well, God wrote the Bible. Really? Did he? I see all these men's names on here, Samuel and Daniel and all these people. And well, it's in the Bible. Well, there's a lot of things in the Bible. And I point out to him, I said, what if a guy came to you today, like Abraham? Abraham has this, God talks to Abraham, tells Abraham, take your son and put him on an altar and get this knife and cut him into pieces as a sacrifice to me. If that guy was alive today and said that, they would lock that guy up in a nut house or a jail. But this guy writing the Bible goes, oh yeah, this is what this guy was. He was even entertaining the thoughts. Anybody that was spiritual would say, I don't care, God, if you want me to kill my son, I ain't going to do it. End of story. You couldn't do what, and if you couldn't do it, how could you believe in a God that will allow you to do that? It's like Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, the story, right? They marched around the walls and blew the trumpets and then the walls fell. Well, before that battle, Joshua has this conversation with God. God says, I promised you a city. That's it down there. All you got to do is go in and kill every man, woman, children, and animal. And it's yours. I give it to you. And he did that. Now, if that happened today, like ISIS tried to do, we go, oh my God, that's criminal. Where's the Hague? These guys are all war criminals. But it's in the Bible. Well, what part of the Bible do you believe? I believe in all the Bible. Really? Okay. So you work on Sundays? Well, yeah, I have my bed work. Okay, then you should be condemned. I should be stoning you to death. You got a divorce? How dare you have another marriage? That's terrible. You're an adulteress. I mean, just the list of things in the Old Testament is so awfully terrible. And we make heroes out of these people. And we got some strange stories in there, like, I don't want to get into it. But I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, really? Then, well, I follow the New Testament. Okay, great. You follow the New Testament. But the New Testament, most of the New Testament was written 100 or 200 years after the death of Jesus. People think that stuff was just written. No, it wasn't. And it wasn't until 200 years after the death of Jesus that somebody decided to say, he was born of a virgin. Nobody said that when he was alive. That would be big news. Hey, my mother's a virgin. No, that would have been a big thing to claim. It was never claimed. So just kind of throwing that out there. And and then when God says, or Jesus says he was a son of, he was a son of God. We're all sons or daughters of God. It's all one. He wasn't lying. And then he said, you could do everything I do or more. Or more. Well, if he was the son of God, that's like God practically, you shouldn't be able to do more than that. But he said you could, because we're all one. It's just all one. So before you start getting on a horse and, joining some organization, kind of ask yourself, if I wasn't born into this, or if it wasn't my main country's religion, would I be following this? And I'm saying, if you're following it because of family or social, bless your heart, that's okay. God don't care. Follow. It's a culture. It makes you feel good, and you do the ceremonies, you do the pujas, you do the masses, you do you confess, whatever you got to do it with love. It doesn't matter. God doesn't care. Jesus was not a Christian. I want to break it to you. And he certainly wouldn't recognize Christianity today if he came here. And Buddhist, Carol, was not a Buddhist. So I'm telling people, whatever religion you are, if it brings you joy and happiness, embrace it. If it's about giving love to others, embrace it. If Jesus or Buddha, Krishna, or Shiva, whoever inspires you, it doesn't matter, because it's all one. The image may change, but you're basically all worshiping the same. Mm-hmm. Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, take your pick. It's all one. It's a level of vibration and light. Thus the term enlightenment. What does that mean? you actually there's light that's growing within you, and the frequency is changing, and you do become enlightened. But realize when you hear people say, "Well, I had a near-death experience, and now I'm enlightened." No, you're not. You had an experience, you had a momentary thing, you had a glimpse at something great. Anybody here says they're enlightened right now, I'm saying, no, you're not. If you're enlightened, you're not even going to have a body, you're not here, right? But there's levels of enlightenment.
Right.
It's a brief encounter where you have a moment of just serenity and peace, and you go, wow, where was I for the last 5 minutes? It was just really kind of blissed out, right? And then there's full-blown samadhi, for an hour or for a day or 2 or 3 or whatever. So there's levels of reaching this plateau, but it's levels, and it keeps going and going, and they get finer and finer and higher and evolving at different higher frequencies. So don't delude yourself that I'm practically enlightened. I'm going to get rid of my ego, and this is my last lifetime. Well, that's all great. Not your call to make. Don't worry about judging yourself. Just learn to love God. And if that means loving others because they are God, and animals and plants and mountains and rivers and oceans and sky and a computer, whatever, everything is God. And when you look at everything as God, you got to say, well, what's it all made out of? So I have this theory that I have in one of my books. I think I have it in the beginning of I Remember Tomorrow, which actually is kind of an odd title from an old guy. I can't remember where I put my car keys, but I remember tomorrow. Anyway, so my theory is theory of oneness and love. And basically it states that everything was created from love, or the embrace of love, or the touch of love. You can break it down to quarks and and all the strings and all this other stuff, but what is the energy in all these things? That's the same thing that's in everything that's ever been created and everything that's not created. It's called love. So what is God? You can call God anything you want. Call God anything. To me, when I think of God, I just think of love. That's why I kind of liked the movie Star Wars when it came out. I'm not a Star Wars person, but the aspect of the force is with you, I liked, because it was non-secular. It didn't get into, it was just the force. To me, the force is love. It's the greatest energy in the world. And so when you focus on that, you're focusing on God. So how do you find this inner peace? How do you advance? How do you move forward? Because I meet people, you could teach them the highest meditations, quote unquote, in the world. I'm doing Kriya Yoga. I'm doing Om technique. I'm doing Hamsa. I'm doing whatever they're doing, right? And I'll come back to them 20 years, 30 years later, 40 years later. They're not any kinder. They're not any more humane. They're not any more loving. But they're doing 108 every day, 144, whatever, the up and down. They got all this brain stuff, imagining it, going here and visualizing all that stuff. They never get out of the head. It's always a head thing. It's always an exercise. And accountant at the same time too, right? And then when they finish, they get up and they leave. And I go, wait a minute. That's just to prepare you to be with God. Mm-hmm. When you finish the meditation, that's not the real meditation. It's the sitting in the silence afterwards, in love with the divine, seeking nothing, not even seeking enlightenment, not seeking wisdom, not seeking health, not seeking anything, just sitting there loving God. Because most people get stuck in the first part of communication. Talk to God, ask God, tell God God, I need a new Mercedes. People pray to God like God doesn't know what they need. To me, prayer in that vein of praying is a violation of all faith. Like, you got to tell God that you're sick because he didn't know. You got to tell God what you need. You got to tell him when you need it. Instead of just saying, whatever you give me, I'm happy. Give me, all thing I ask for is strength and courage. Give me the knowledge I need to handle what comes. Don't take away the problems. Just I'm learning from them. It's just feeding my soul. That's okay. But give me the courage and the faith and the hope, and give me the tools I need to handle what's ever coming. But don't pray to take things away, because that's a total lack of faith. And telling God what you need. People don't really know what they need, because what they're really getting is what they need. You needed to get the cancer. You needed to get this. You needed to lose your job, so you find out other things in your life are more important. You need to lose your wife, so you find out how much you need to change to save a marriage next time, right? So there's all these things that happen to you, and your job is not to look at, well, this is a lesson, because that's harsh. Everything's a lesson. Well, it's like a punishment. I'm learning my lesson. I'm sitting in the corner. I tell people, don't look at it as a lesson. Look at it as a gift. Everything's a gift. Find out what the gift is. Like with my cancer, I found all these techniques to heal, and I'm teaching it, self-healing techniques, and I'm teaching people how to deal with their pain. I wouldn't have did that had I not lost my nose 3 times and had over 300 and some stitches in my face. And I'll tell you what, losing your nose is not as much fun as it sounds. Trust me on this. It's just not. It's really not very good. And I never took any pain pills afterwards. We're talking burning stitches, all that stuff. I'd leave there.
Yeah.
Locals wore off. That's it. I got to make it work. And I did. I'd get rid of the pain. And I teach a technique
The
to do it.
stories in the book.
Thank you. And so that's what I've been kind of doing around the world. And I'm very, what's the word? I was going to say enthusiastic, and maybe that's the right word. I'm very enthusiastic about my Dharma. I've lived, I'll be 79 in 10 days. I'll be 79 years old. So in astrology in India, the Eastern astrology, or REV astrology, I'll be starting my 80th year, because it's like right now I'm 78, but I'm really in my 79th year.
They call it the running year.
There you go. So actually, in a couple of weeks, I'm actually in my 80th year of life. And so I'm looking at it thinking, I've spent 8 decades learning everything that I know now and becoming who I am now and developing this knowledge and this wisdom that I feel compelled to share. At my age, I should be sitting around watching football and basketball and saying, to hell with it, and not try. But if you read my book, you see I'm out and about and I'm doing stuff. It's like this month, I'm going twice to Texas this month. I went to Hawaii this month. I went to LA. I went to San Diego. And I'm not through. I feel that this is my divine purpose. Now, each of you have your own divine purpose. And there's no better than somebody else's. It's just different. You got a deck of 52 cards. You take any one card out of there, it's incomplete. You can't play a game. Well, I want to be the ace of spades. I want to be the queen of hearts. Well, 3 of clubs is missing. You can't play. It's a missing deck. Something's not right. Like a big jigsaw puzzle, you take one piece out of the middle. It doesn't matter. You got all the rest. You're missing a piece. Each of you needs to find, what is your Dharma? What's your purpose? What's your path? There's a lot of ways to do that. If it doesn't come to you in a dream, or, it's obvious what your talents are, you may find them through getting a naughty palm leaf reading. I talk about that in my book. And there's Western people that'll do stuff like Eric Starwalker, who is up in Mount Shasta. That's my chart that he did. And he channels, and he's a shaman. He lives up there in Shasta, and he does a chart, and then he channels the masters and people on the other side to interpret, to find your purpose. Are you living your purpose? Are you doing what you were sent here to do? And I don't know if you had a chance to read that last little section there, because it really lays out.
Yep.
And he did my reading, did not know me, never met me, never watched a single video, was just given somebody told him, hey, this is an interesting guy. You might want to do a chart on him because it'd be interesting. And that's all they told him. And he calls me up and he says, what's your birthday? And I'm gonna do a free chart on you. Well, he wasn't even selling me nothing. Then he came back a week later and he did this 90-minute presentation for me that took me months to figure out because I really wanted to get it down to just the basics. And in the book, I have it down to the basics, you know, boom, boom, boom. Here's your purpose. It's about love and it's about teaching and it's about being a regular person because nobody's looking for people in white robes anymore. People want a regular person. They go, well, that guy, Rev Bill could do this. I could do this. So I go out there. I don't want people calling me a guru. I don't want to be called a teacher. Don't call me a healer. It's Reverend Bill's good enough, or just Bill. I don't care. It's Reverend Bill. Don't follow me. Don't follow the messenger. Kill the messenger. It's the message that's important. Because when I'm gone in a few years, literally, I mean, I've had congestive heart failure over 20 some years now. I was given, 5 years. That's a big deal to get 10 years. Oh my God. 15 years. They didn't have any, 20 years, 20 some years. They have no numbers on survival. It's like, well, just keep going. We don't know. Just keep going. Right. So I'm living in overtime and I'm trying to get as much done as I can. That's why I wrote 4 books in the last few months and I'm working on one now, a new one coming out in November. And I'm helping Dr. Q write his book, but he's doing most of the work. I'm giving him feedback and stuff. And I should say most work. He's going to end up doing it all. I'm cheering him on. I was working with him here and it was like, he's working and I'm talking to him. And, somebody talking to you when you're trying to work, you don't get too much done. Anyway, so
Dr. Q is also somebody who has his own, I think he works with the Nadi.
He runs the Indian Palm Leaf Reading Institute. And what's it? You should have him on. He'd probably come on here if you sent him an invitation. But the deal is this. He had his done and basically saved his life. And he was really sick and everything. He went through a lot of stuff. And then he was told that he would eventually be helping people with this and promoting it and everything. That's what he ended up doing. And so he is having people trained in India because it's a long time of training. And he's keeping the people doing that job by funneling all the money he brings in for the readings. He gets zero. He pays it all out to these guys because he doesn't want them to quit and become, keyboard operators and program engineers and stuff like that. Because in India, it's the hardest job you could be, right? For practically nothing, right? Where they could get these jobs in high tech, So the young people, nobody wants to do the job. So he's out there finding these people, getting them in an apprentice program under gurus and stuff. And he's finding and he's saving the culture of this because it's a lost art. And there's so many fake, probably 90% of them out there are fake, phony. So he's one of those good guys out there that's trying to do something good. And he's not making any money at it. So it's like, that's one indicator there. If you look at where the money's going, that usually says a lot. So anyway, so you find out through your Nadi Palm Leaf reading, which we could talk about. You find out through your star charts. Find out through, when I went to Hawaii, also the book I list, somebody that met me for the first time, in 5 minutes, they sat down, this kahuna lady, and she channels these spirits and stuff. And they gave me a reading and it was pretty damn close. It was right. She didn't even know I was involved in healing or nothing. She just introduced as just Bill. She didn't know. And if you read the back of that book, these readings were all coldly done with people that didn't know me. But there's a sameness through them. There's the same kind of energy. And they're basically all saying the same thing. It's all about love. It's all about promoting forgiveness. It's all about writing books. It's all about teaching. It's all about loving. So I go through life and I tell people, you're not here to get, you're here to give. You're not here to be understood. Oh, nobody understands me. Understand others. You're not here to be heard. Listen. And if you live your life that way, including love, well, nobody loves me. Well, stop. Forget that. Who do you love? Who do you love every day? And who do you love that doesn't love you back? When you're done, the only thing that matters is who you love, not who loved you, because that could be influencer or celebrity. Everybody loves celebrities, and God knows they can do no wrong, and they're all great. But if you kicked a kid out of your house that was doing drugs, an adult child, that kid he's not gonna like you. You're bad, you know, but you love him. That's why you kicked him out. That's why you're hard on him. So the question is, who'd you love? Not who loved you. And at the end of your life, you stand up and you're counted. That's the only thing that's the only currency that's going to count. Love. But at the head of that line, you got to love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, the rest of it's a house of cards. It all falls down. Because you can't really love anybody else unless you do love yourself. You can't forgive anybody else unless you've forgiven yourself. People don't understand that you can't give away what you don't have. And you are enough. Everybody in this, you are enough. Look at me. You are enough. You're God. You don't have to do anything to be loved. You don't have to do anything to be forgiven. Just be. That's all you need. Just be. And when you find that acceptance in there, your whole life changes. And then you get to the point you realize, well, everything's one. Yeah, it's all one experience, but I'm a victim. All this stuff has happened to me. I terrible jobs, terrible husbands, terrible wives, terrible this, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was raised terrible and I was molested and all this. Everybody has a story. And I say, look in the mirror. That's who created everything. You manifest everything in your life, even if you can't connect the dots, because there's dots that go back previous lifetimes. There's dots that are connected through your dreams, your desires, your lusting, your wants, you know, all these things, what you read, what you eat, that creates your karma for, you know, your body and everything else. And if you hate somebody and hold a grudge, it's hard not to get cancer. It's hard not to get heart disease. That stuff eats you up. But even if you're the greatest, great stuffy out there, because everybody likes to blame karma on everything. 99% of the stuff happens to you as karma. But there's that St. Francis out there. There's that Jesus out there. That's a Buddha out there. There's people out there of another level. They're not burning their karma. They're burning their followers. They're burning their devotees. And trust me, that's powerful. But they don't have to do that. So there's some people like, oh, this guy must have been bad. Look at all the stuff that's happened to him. Really? Maybe that was taken on by choice. That's like you see a child come into this world and they have some mental problem, you know, or they're born and I'm trying to find a word I'm looking for. They don't have a high IQ. They don't have whatever it is, right? Or they got real bad bodily functions. They didn't necessarily bring that on themselves. Some people, when they come into this life, before they come, they want to burn as fast and as much karma as they can. Bring it on, give me everything. And then some souls come in totally loaded up to burn as much as they can because they want to get out of here. And they'll take on all this garbage. That's one type. And the other type will come in and they want to teach their parents about compassion and love and service. And so they'll come in as this helpless child where the parents have to learn patience and understanding and, you know, and all this other stuff. And they end up teaching these valuable lessons to the parents. But it wasn't because they were bad. They were doing this and sacrificing this lifetime's body and mind to help somebody else. So you can't judge everything. Oh, it's karma. Yeah, most of it. In yourself, you're better off in your own world saying, okay, it's my karma. That's okay. But judging others, it just doesn't work. So anyway, you got any questions? Because I could go on forever.
I know. So Reverend Bill, we didn't really get a chance to tell people about you. So I'll just go through it and then we'll open the floor up for some questions. So Reverend Bill, as you've already experienced, he's a remarkable, multifaceted individual. And he's an author, he's a poet, he's a minister, he's an energy healer. I mean, these are all slots we can put you in, but we know you're beyond this. And each one of us is beyond this. So he's a motivational speaker, and he's a much decorated Vietnam War vet. And so I just wanted to say that in this book, and he's got so many books and so many stories to share. And in this book, these are all really short chapters that make for really quick reading, but each chapter has its own flavor. And it's like a slice of life. There you go. He's sharing the book right there. Each chapter is a slice of life, and so I'm going to urge folks to read this book if you can just pick it up, and I'll have Reverend Bill share more later about where you can find his books and access his workshops. But meanwhile, let us open the floor up for any questions that people might have.
Surely Carol's got a question in her mind. I can feel it rolling.
I had a question for you.
Okay.
So, being that you're in kind of a spiritual role, do you have like a prayer or a mantra or some words that you suggest people like to use?
So happens I even have a book on that.
I asked the right question. There you
Okay,
go.
these are spiritual prayers and blessings with no dogma.
Nice.
No Jesus, no Buddha, no Krishna. Just to God our Father. Just God.
That's gorgeous.
And just give you pointers on prayers. Don't treat God like Santa Claus. Pray for courage. Pray for tools, knowledge, wisdom, people to help you, whatever. Don't pray for a problem to go away. Have courage. Face the problem. You find out when you got something coming, like, hey, do it, man. Just do it. It's a lot easier. Most people suffer more pain because they're worried about the problem. It's like when people are going through bankruptcy for 6 months or a year before, they suffer through all this anguish, and stuff. Then they finally go bankrupt. It's done. They walk away. Okay, let's start new. But it's the before you actually lose it all. So in prayers, realize that the farther you put God out there, the more separation you have. Don't pray to God like God is not here. Just have a conversation with God. So to me, real prayer is just an honest conversation with yourself, with God. It's all one. If you want to talk to God like an alternate ego, but go ahead. But it's just, to me, I found that a very simple mantra of just, I love you, God. I love you, Jesus. I love you, Buddha, whatever. I just love you, God. If it's said with great sincerity and true love, you don't need a puja. You don't need some special mantra in a foreign language. You don't need in Latin. You don't need all this stuff. You don't have to burn incense. I don't think God cares if you burn incense or not. It's going to heaven. Show me where heaven's not. Which is interesting because story fits this. My first trip to India, I'm hiking in the Himalayas and I come up this hillside. There's a Buddhist temple, small one. It was clean inside. It was nice. It had a guy who was sweeping the floor with, the straw, one of the straw brooms. And I am tired. I've been hiking all day, and I got my sandals off, I got my bare feet, and I'm an old guy. I can't just sit on the floor. There's no chairs. So I stretch my feet out in front of me, facing the Buddha, at the front. And this Guy comes over and he starts hitting me with the broom. How dare you? You know, you got your feet to God. And I just said, dear sir, show me where God is not, and I'll point my feet there. And I didn't know what the hell to say. He just left. But seriously, where's God not? So, God is only there where the Buddha statue's at. So people limit God. There is no limit. Everything is God, of God, for God. It's you. But the connecting thing is love. And since we're all connecting in this universe, this cosmic consciousness, that makes us one. There's no new ideas. I wrote the books, but they're already written in the cosmic consciousness. You know, anybody could have pulled out the same information I did. There's no new ideas. Like people go, well, when the copyrights run out, I said, when the copyrights run out, let everybody have them for free. I don't care. Print them. I don't care. When I'm going, let them go. Well, you got to trademark it. These people got to trademark. You know, you have to have branding. I go, no branding, no trademarks, no bumper stickers. Just love. That's it. That's it. So prayer is the art it's the art of conversation that people miss, because conversation is two ways. You talk to and you listen. Most people think praying is just talking to God. Well, I'm telling you, yeah, it's just part of it. Afterwards, you got to sit and listen. How you gonna know how you know what the answer is? So just don't ask for things. Praise God and be grateful. And when you're grateful, well, it's like if you're unemployed and you have no money, what are you praying for? You're always praying from a place of lacking. I lack money. I lack food. I lack housing. And so you're praying from a lack. And what are you going to attract? More. Lack attracts more of the same. Emptiness. So find things to be grateful for, even if you got nothing left. Well, I don't have any money, but I still love my wife. I still got my kids. Duh, right? So find something to always be grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to God, realize you're actually talking to yourself. And people have a hard time with that because they want somebody on the outside of them looking after them. They want somebody else to save them. We all do it. I mean, we all do it. You know, it's like, oh my God, God, please get me home. Whatever. So prayer's big. But I got a book here for people that go, there's a graduation, there's a Thanksgiving dinner, there's a death in the family, there's somebody sick. All the different things you need a prayer or something for. I've got them in here. There's guidance and stuff in here, and it's all simple. It's loving. And I wrote the book, and it's only, I don't know, it's 120 pages. And I said, nobody's going to buy it. A couple people will give it out as gifts, That was number 30 on the top 100 bestseller when it came out with no advertising and nothing. I didn't even post anything. People were buying. This is my best-selling book. I go, what? What? You think that should be the best-selling book? It's great. I like it, right? And this is just telling people how to pray. It's just, I end the book with prayers for a mother's funeral, but it's like all these different things. Praise for a father's funeral, prayer for a New Year blessing, prayer for Thanksgiving Day, prayer for your neighbors, prayer for Mother's Day, prayer of acceptance and understanding, prayers for forgiving ourselves, prayer for our enemies. It just goes on and on and on and on. People have never been taught to pray. People don't know how to pray. And I said, well, you know what? Let's give them this. And they can add in anything they want, but here's the basics. So, and then in this book, I think I even add a prayer in this book. This book is this book I got. Oh, there you go.
You have the prayer of Saint Francis.
Prayer in the back of the book.
Yeah.
I wrote that, and that's what inspired me to write this. I thought, well, this is kind of nice. So I wrote this poem. It's written with an inner wink and acknowledgement of the sacred life of St. Francis, because I think, St. Francis is like, that's love, right? So in the style of St. Francis, because you got to steal everything's only one consciousness, right? But so it's called a prayer in the style of St. Francis. O divine spirit, grant me the grace to forgive. As the morning sun warms the earth, let my heart be open to release burdens I carry and to embrace those who have wronged me. In the quiet of my soul, may I find love that begins within, a gentle light that reflects your kindness, teaching me to cherish the gift of self so that I may share this love abundantly. Let my hands be instruments of your peace. Guide me to serve your neighbors with joy, to uplift the weary and the broken, fostering a community of compassion where understanding blooms and hope thrives. In every act of kindness, may I echo your boundless love. And at each moment, let me be a vessel of your grace, spreading the harmony and healing in this world you have entrusted to me. Amen. So that's the kind of stuff I write in there, because it's like, there's a lot there. That's all you need to live on.
Mhm.
If you followed that, right? Just so each of you should become a vessel of peace and love. And when you do meditate and you finish your meditations, which I was talking about earlier, don't get up and run, because that's where everything begins. So sit there for a long period of time after your meditation and just absorb. Give love and absorb.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street. You can't give love to God without receiving love back, but don't do it for that reason. It just happens. It's the side effect. It's the consequences of loving God. You get more love. Stop loving me, God. I got enough. Please don't hug me anymore. Well, I don't think I've ever said that. I don't think anybody's ever said they had enough love, but it will come.
Yeah.
I
Thank you.
I prayed for a young man I had in foster care, and my wife felt sorry for this kid. I was mentoring him, and then he got kicked out of a group home. I don't know, for about the 20th time or something, and he had no place to go, and he was 17, and we told, come move in. So we were foster parents without getting paid any money, because they kicked him out of the system. They kicked him out of the system. You're on your own. Like, wow. So we took him in, and we were kind to him. We did all kinds of stuff for him, and clothing, food, you name it, gas money, everything. And then he stole my daughter's and wife's jewelry, stole some valuable stamps from me, stole my valuable knives. He ripped us off. Him and his friends came in, stole everything, and he left. And then he tried to come back a couple of times, and we were kind of lukewarm, and my wife was mad, but I always forgave him. And when he got in trouble, he went to jail in Texas, and he went to jail in Auburn and in Sacramento County. I'd write him. And then I didn't hear about him since like about 1991 or two. I never heard from him for almost 30 years. But I prayed for him, always prayed for this kid. He was 17 this last Christmas. I should write that. This story. I don't think I put the story. Did I put the story in my book? I don't think I did I?
No, this one's not in your book.
Oh, it's a story I actually didn't tell. Maybe the next book. And all of a sudden, it's like the 18th of December, which is this kid's birthday, if I remember right. It was around there. I heard knocking at my door at night. And it's like, and I opened the door, and there's this guy with a beard and gray hair, and he's an old man, right? He's really aged. He's, so I saw when he was, 17, like about 1990 or something. And so this is like 25 years later. So he's up there, and he's aged, and he's been in prison. He's had a lot of stuff happen. And he had his wife with him, and he says, I come to introduce my wife to the people that have helped me in my life. I want to thank you for helping me. This is 35, whatever it is, years later. He's coming on just before Christmas to thank us for all that we did for him. That was it. It was He was living in Arizona. He come on up here to Northern California just to say thank you and introduce his wife to us. And I thought that was nice, because I got a glimpse of no love is wasted. So even if it took that many years, you still pray for people.
Right.
Even though he stole from me, it didn't matter. It was just stuff.
Yeah.
I don't approve of it, but it's just stuff. Anyway, he's married. He owns a house, has a car. He's working a job. He's not in jail. I was happy. Trust me, because he was going bad stuff, prison and everything else.
Right. Any questions for Reverend Bill?
I guess I might have one. I
Please, Joe.
I really enjoyed your talk, and
Thanks.
you talked a lot about love. Liking is easy to understand. It's an emotion that just happens to us. If you could talk a little about what love is, I know that sounds too awfully basic, but
No, that's a question I get a lot. And
oh, thank God. Okay, good.
so, and I always give a different answer. And I'm saying, you can't put love in a box. Here's the deal. When you're born and you're a baby, when somebody picks you up that they love you or they don't love you. You don't have to learn that. You know when you get love, what it is. And in your heart, when you're giving love. Some people get mixed up in their childhood because, from abuse and everything, they don't know what real love is and all that kind of stuff. But when I talk about love, I'm talking about divine love. And it has to start with loving you. And that's the bigger question. How do you love yourself? Which is, like, how do I recognize love? How do I love me? How can I love me? I mean, I've done all this stuff. I've been divorced 3 times. My kids don't talk to me. I've heard all stories, right? I was an alcoholic. I was drugs. I wasted my youth. And first off, I tell 2 things on that. Number 1, it doesn't matter what you were. It's who you are now at this moment. You got karma, forget karma. That's like if you eat an extra 50,000 calories, the calorie god can forgive you, but you're still going to gain weight, right? I mean, you got that coming, but you're forgiven. So you do stuff in life. But loving yourself has to be your foundation truth. And you have to love yourself because, well, Reverend Bill's saying that God and I are one. If I don't love me, I'm saying I don't love God. And I love God. So recognize that in yourself. And so if you can't fully love yourself, then just keep loving God harder. It spills over. So how do you recognize it? I don't know. But I know when I get a hug from a grandmother that she loves me. You know what I mean? And there's something about a Italian grandma grabbing your cheeks, and doing this crap. And I don't know how. I used to have a grandma would wet a napkin or something to wipe something off of my face with her spit, and I'm going, oh yeah. Only a grandmother can get away with that kind of stuff. I don't know if people still do that nowadays. But grandmas get away with that. Grandfathers, not so much. Ultimately, I always think about love as the divine mother. The father image is more wisdom, more all that other stuff, analytical, that's. But I think in creation, I think love is a feminine energy. Contains masculine, of course, but the feminine energy is what really makes surviving life. Without feminine energy, this world would be a terrible place. Compassion, dead, intuition, all these beautiful attributes that we accuse women of. I mean, us men know a good thing and we're trying to get it. And then women got to realize that you can't walk around all day without analyzing and having wisdom and all the other virtues that, that make a man a man. So the ultimate thing, which gets down to subject you didn't ask about, because all these people are confused what gender they are. And I said, there's no gender, there's just us. When you die, there's no gender. But if you've been living 1,000 lifetimes as a woman, and then this lifetime you got something to learn and you're coming as a man, you're going to be fighting it. You feel like you're a prisoner in your body because the wrong gender, because it's the lifetime you switched. Could be male, female, same problem. In case you're wondering why it's really prevalent out there. It's like right now, both genders have to learn the lesson. And so they're brought into the other opposite gender to learn those lessons. And where they fail is to spend all their waking moments and hours in their whole lifetime debating who they are and thinking about gender instead of just living their lives and acceptance of who they are. And whatever they are, accept it, forgive yourself, move on. But don't make it your every moment, everything you think about. I never think about being man or whatever. But people do, they focus on that. It's the same thing with the gay relationship. That's a switching of genders as well, too. So it's a different energy. And it's all one consciousness. We're all one. But when we start demonizing all these people and making them, that's our cause of our problem, because some drag queen someplace at the library, I'm worried about Social Security being cut. I don't care about what's going on at the library with drag queens. I'm sorry. It's a crazy world we're living in. We're focusing on things that we're making problems with. There's no problems. Let people live whatever they want to do. But as an individual with their own thoughts, they should deal with this thing from a spiritual point of view. Whatever they want to do, that's their choice. I'm telling them on a higher level, you got to get past all that. You have to go straight to the source. I am a soul. Who cares what gender? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Anyway, that was the question that wasn't asked, but there you go.
Yeah. Reverend Bill, there's a question from Jonna Ray. And the question is, what gives you the greatest hope for our nation and our world?
Believe it or not, I'm a believer in youth. We have children out there, and they've had various names for them, indigo children, all this other stuff. But there's a small group of children coming in that are highly advanced spiritual souls. They're coming into some real hard, bad times. We, meaning the baby boomers, we did not leave them a great place. I mean, we were burning bras and draft cards, and we didn't leave the world in a better place. We didn't get rid of the garbage. We didn't get rid of plastic. We didn't accomplish much, With this generation, I see these young people, and I see the vision of hope in their eyes. I know we're going to be okay. But the next 35 years, this nation, this world, next 3 decades has got a lot of garbage going on. I'm not going to see the end of this garbage while I'm in my life. So people are looking for a quick fix. It ain't going to happen. But on a larger view of things, of history, it's a quick fix. 35, 40 years, we're going to be creating new and better. You have to, if you buy an old house, what you got to do, you got to tear down the sheetrock and foundation, you got to put a new roof on. We're kind of in the tear down stage right now. Without much control, we're tearing everything down. Because we're living in a world where both sides have gone too far. Both sides. Everybody's wrong. There's no common sense in the middle that says, hey, we got to work together. We got to love each other. And so instead of me going out there and giving political speeches, because there's enough people to do that, I'm not a revolutionary. I'm a spiritual evolutionary. Figuring if I teach you to love you, you will see the you in others. And that's how you change things, one soul at a time. Not converting anybody, but by living your life as an inspiration to others. And your energy, actual energy, if it gets high enough frequency, will change those people around you. And I've seen that. You go to some ashram in India or someplace around some guy that's really some big guru guy, and there's a different feeling there, and people go for the darshma, right? The energy there. So no, young people inspire me. That's why I'm not living in a 55 and over community. I don't want to step on any toes of anybody. And that's why I don't live in an assisted living place or an old age home, and I don't have a lot of old age friends I hang around with. Most people I hang around with are 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, some 60s. I got some high school friends, but they're just the past. And honestly, most of my friends are dying, to be honest with you. They're dying. They're going every day. So if you live in a community and you're only living with people your same age, You're missing the generational wisdom that comes from all ages. And so I look at my great-grandchildren and my grandchildren right now as, yeah, they're the answer, and it's going to change and it's going to get better. Ultimately, we're evolving higher, but as you evolve higher, there's bad guys out there with energy too. So it's a battle. It's always a battle. But it doesn't take many high frequency souls to change the frequency of a nation or a world. Small group, a core group, small core group. Add 2 or 3 Jesuses in, a couple of Buddhas, and you change the world. So if you change, not only do you change yourself, there's something else, and you change your family, your neighbors. But when you change you in the now, you're also changing you in the past. You're actually changing your karma from the past. That's why you're going to vote, because it's all happening in the now. It's all happening right now. So if you're improving yourself now, you're improving yourself in the past and tomorrow. Development goes both ways. So when you meditate, you're meditating to change yourself both forwards and backwards, because it's all one. All one. That's a point that people lose. So, and then there's this thing that is believed in India and China and several other places, and I totally subscribe to it. And that's the 7-generational jump. In other words, if you have a saint in the family, somebody's really, they will bless 7 generations forward in the DNA. And they will also bless 7 generations backwards in the DNA. So if you become saintly, like, you actually change your ancestors and your future people that are going to take over your place in the line of your DNA. That's a lot of responsibility, because by the same token, if you're a killer, serial killer, you're actually changing the DNA. You're spreading nasty vibrations both directions too. That's why you have criminal families. Everybody's a criminal in the family. Everybody hates. You ever wonder about that? Then some other family is just very loving. It's a power of a DNA, a spiritual DNA. But even if you're in that grasp of that, the individual can always change. The individual makes choices. Every choice in their life manifests their future. And if you're caught up in some bad family, you got to ask yourself, are you there to help them? Or is it a punishment? I never look at it as a punishment. I said, well, maybe they're helping me and I'm helping them. That's the way you got to look at it. And that's the truth. You're helping each other. Your greatest teachers are your enemies. They'll tell you the truth, their truth. Most of us can't handle the truth, right? But your enemies will tell you. Your friends, not so much. How's this look? Oh, yeah, you look good. Am I fat? No, you're good. Your enemy will say, yeah, you're fat, man. You're out of shape. Come on, you're looking old. So don't lose sight of what the truth is. So when you look in the mirror, just go, all right, it's reflecting back on me and what I'm giving it. If you think of yourself as a saint, you become a saint because you act like it. If you think of yourself as a gangster and you're angry and you're a crook and you're mad, it reflects on your whole entire life. If you think you're cursed, I heard people, oh, life is cursed. Nothing ever goes right. Nothing ever goes right. If something's going to go wrong, it's going to happen to me. And guess what? They're right. Everything's going to go wrong for them. So just stand up, look around, and realize that the only thing that's real is love.
Yeah. You need to go in here?
Reverend Bill, we
Yeah.
are at 5:31 p.m. So we are at the end of this session per se, but there are other questions. And I am
They want to leave. Those people want to stay and ask questions. Go ahead.
okay. So everybody is welcome to stay, and whoever needs to leave can leave. Okay, Tiffany, thank you for being here. Great to see you. So I would like to actually ask a question that Cindy has put here. And John Ray, I'll get to your question after that. And Cindy's question is, how can we support the young people? And you were talking about the young coming up and they're, someone
What's
we can.
interesting is I just had a book published Monday, Monday the 3rd, just out, Cosmic Consciousness or Cosmic Chronicles, where I take all these questions people ask me and I put little, all these little things in there, essays. And one of them is how to raise spiritual children, how to be better spouses, simple questions like that, hard questions, rainbow body questions, how to meditate, how to pray, all these things. But how do you support a child? First off, a child needs an example to follow. If you're doing marijuana every night at the dinner table, and drinking 2 or 3 glasses of wine, and you're telling them not to smoke and don't do drugs and don't do alcohol, and they're looking at you, your speech meant nothing. How you live your life makes a difference. And if they see you talking bad to your spouse, they learn from that. And they see you hating somebody, they're mad at some neighbor, friend, or family member, and they say bad things about that person. They remember how they talked about that and how they treat their parents. Here's a big one. How your children see you treat your parents, their grandparents, teaches them how to treat you later when they're an adult. Think about that one. Well, I ain't talking to my mother anymore. She, okay, great. You're going to wake up one day and your kids, that's how they learned it. They're not talking to you either. So so everything you do teaches the young, but you got to realize they come with their own personality. They have their own spiritual DNA. They have their own life already planned out. They have their dharma. They have their purpose. You influence them the first 6 or 7 years to some degree. After that, it's less and less and less and less. Time they're 13, 14, 15 years old, especially if they're a girl, give up. You ain't got no influence on them anymore. And a boy, you never had in the first place. So at least girls will listen to you till they're teenagers. Boys, you lost them. They're not there. So we have this illusion of having control and then we take credit and blame how they turned out. Oh, they're wonderful kids. Well, that's them. Oh, they're terrible kids. That's not you either necessarily. And you get the parents that you attract, that you need, that volunteered or were sentenced to you, given to you. So your children come into life, they come into your life for a reason. And for those of us that raise children, like my children are all retired. My children are retired. They grow up awful damn quick. And now I'm living with a 79-year-old great grandmother. I never saw that in the cards in high school. So life that wouldn't change a damn thing. It just is what it is. So for children, give them love, but give them discipline. But be the example. The example is going to teach you more than the others.
Wonderful. Jonna Ray has a really interesting question, and I feel like it's sort of connected to what you experienced on your recent flight when you saw orbs. And the question is, how much impact do you feel interplanetary beings have on us?
Well, first off, the group can accept it or not, but I've seen UFOs recently, just a few years ago. I've seen orbs. I've had orb experiences, big orbs, including like this picture for the cover. You notice those little dots?
Mhm.
Those aren't put in there artistically. That's from the actual photograph that was taken. Including
Okay.
the back of the book with the dots. That's from the photo. The orbs were all over me when I was getting it. It was hard trouble. The camera person was complaining because every time she took a picture, she had nothing but whatever color that is, dots all over the damn place. It's one of the clearer shots. No, you can't use these. They're all bad. I can't. I said, no, give me some of the dots. That's good. Anyway, So I've had orb experiences. Me and my two sisters were abducted, 1950.
Hmm.
A group of aliens. I talk about that in one of my books, but I don't talk about it much because it's a story. Reverend Bill goes, when I start talking about being abducted, people go, "Oh yeah, that figures." Reverend Bill, yeah, and he's abducted by aliens, sure. So it's like you open yourself up to ridicule, judgment. But I'm telling you right now, it's real. My sister's seen what I seen, experienced what I seen. And when I had at the VA and at Kaiser, because I have bone density issues, and they did a C scan or CAT scan, something anyway, MRI. And when they looked at my arm here, I have an implant about yay big, metallic implant in my arm they wanted to take out, but they didn't want to give it to me. I said, "Oh, it's hazardous waste." I said, No, if you take it out," the VA wanted to take it out. I said, "No." So I went to the Kaiser, and Kaiser wouldn't take it out and give it to me either. Neither one wanted to give it to me. And I
Wow.
thought, that's my only evidence, so leave it in there. I don't know what it does, but I got an implant in there. And I've had so many experiences with UFOs, aliens, that if I really printed them all and did them in a book, then I'd be, "Oh, Reverend Bill's this UFO crazy guy." So I kind of avoid it because it's like people don't realize that they think it's going a different direction, but
Yeah. It's like more sensational.
it's all spiritual teachings of different
Mhm.
things. And my orb
So,
experience have all been downloads of energy and information.
so what do you feel about it, Reverend Bill? Like, what is the impact of?
Well, when I was in India, I was sitting by a sacred fire. It was in an ashram in the jungle, and it was me and a guru and just a couple people. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we were talking about UFOs and stuff. And the guru goes, "Yes, our ancestors." I go, "What do you mean ancestors?" And he pointed up to Sirius. He says,
Mhm.
"There's our home." And this is a guru guy, and so his not yoga tradition. They believe that there's some change in the DNA affected by people that came from Sirius, and whatever that means. And I'm going, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "Those are your brothers." I said, "Okay, fine." So I didn't get any deeper in the conversation because it was like I was waiting for him not to say that. Then he said that, and I had her think about it. It was like, "Oh, that's our brothers." So they've been here before. They're here now. They will continue to be with us. And probably another reason that we don't blow ourselves up, there's people that are looking after this planet. But there's also bad guys.
Mhm.
There's good guys
Mhm.
and there's bad guys. And well, that's another whole show. We're opening up a can of alien worms. I mean, if Trump wants to get rid of some aliens, I tell him, "Hey, I know a bunch of aliens. Get rid of them. Send them back to the planet, Pluto or someplace. Come on." Nah, they don't want to touch them.
Uh, well, this has been a really, really wonderful gathering and so much to learn from Reverend Bill and so many more stories for us to hear. So I hope we'll have you back again. Um, and please do share how people can get your books and sign up for your workshops.
Okay, first off, if you go to Amazon, I think everybody knows where Amazon's at. Go into books, and then just type in the titles or type in, Reverend Bill McDonald Jr. or whatever. But if you put in, I remember tomorrow, or you'll find other titles. Just keep searching the author. There's a bunch of titles out there. I got about 9 books, and I got. If you read German, I got books in German. I got books in Spanish. I've kind of given up on trying to get it translated into other languages because it seems like almost everybody coming to me kind of has an understanding of English. Except I got so many Germans that are involved now that I need German editions. But everyone's seeking. Everyone's looking. Look in the mirror. All the answers are within.
Mhm.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Bill, for that beautiful final message and for taking the time out today to talk to us about your incredible life and work. We really didn't get to details of your life, all these different times and periods, but then hopefully folks can grab your books and then we can probably have you back to
Yeah,
tell us a little bit.
everybody reads the book, like a real book club, because I've actually talked to actual book clubs where they got
Right.
everybody copy of the book, and everybody all get done, they invite me to it, like in Stockton, California here. The
Mm-hmm.
University of Women, and they're all graduates of college, right? And then my first book, Warrior, a Spiritual Odyssey, they all read it. And they go, "You're our guest speaker at our dinner." We both finished the book, and I said, "Everybody's read it?" And it was like, 100 people or 200 people, and they all read my book. And I'm going, "Okay, so I'll come." And just for the heck of it, I bought a box, I figured a case. And they already had my book, and I still sold a case of books because they wanted to give to other people. But when I got questions from people that actually read it, it was like,
yeah.
I mean, their questions are much deeper because they know exactly what I said, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like with it not reading it and asking a question. So it was probably one of the best question answer period I ever had. And I go, wow, because I was really honored. Just if they all bought my book, I was happy. Book club, because it was a real book club. They were really reading it together. They get sessions and they'd read it and share what they thought about it. They take a chapter and then they have a meeting like this, and then they go, "What do you think about that? What do you think that means?" Blah blah blah. Well, and so when I got there, they had me so analyzed. I was listening to them. I go, "Well, what do you think it meant?" And I'm going, "Okay, all right." I mean, they had it analyzed for me. I go, "Geez, my book was so deep." So, but it was a beautiful thing. But it's really nice to read any book and then share it. There's something about a group studying a book together. Kind of takes you back to high school, and you all read Julius Caesar or something, or all those weird books. I'm trying to think of what books I read in high school. Yeah, I hated reading all. They didn't have the books I wanted to read.
Yeah, this book club is a little bit different. It's where we introduce works and introduce authors. And so it's like today our group here got to learn about you and your work. And I'm hoping that they will find your books and read them. And I
You don't buy the book, I remember tomorrow that you didn't go get it. So come on.
when I had read the book, I had specific questions that I didn't get to, which is fine because I feel like the stories that you share are so important and so valuable. And we are going through interesting times, and I think we need these uplifting stories to see us through.
People think that the days of miracles are gone. There are miracles every day.
Yeah.
Someplace. Like they say, well, it's 5 o'clock someplace in the world, it's happy hour. And I'm saying, no, it's miracle time in the world everywhere. It's always time. Someplace there's a miracle going on.
Yeah.
A lot of people miss.
And you've had so many miracles in your life, and you talk about those in your books too. So, there's it's I would say it's a plea to really believe in the power of love and believe that we are being loved, even though it doesn't feel like that some days.
Even this crap we're going through as a nation, that's ultimately going to take us to a place of love. We have to expose the prejudice. We have to expose the anger. we have to root up the problem so people can see the trees rotten, something's wrong here. And also
Right.
realize that both groups are going for the wrong solutions.
Hmm.
They both think it's going to be the right or the left. And no one's going down for the practical. It's like, no, you're going too far, both going too far.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people realize, wake up one day, is like, well, how this country exists? Compromise. Working things out that work for both parties. Don't have winners, losers. You have people compromise. You win a little, you lose a little. Country work much better. Anyway, blessings and peace and love.